I tolerated her sleeping with directors for her career, yet she mocked me on the film set, saying I was impotent. Now that I am a top director, videos of her breakdown are going viral online. On the cast list for the new show, the director had listed my name, Ethan Hayes, as impotent. I stepped forward to confront him, but he arrogantly retorted, "If I didn't do this, how would a no-talent hack actor like you ever get famous? You should get down on your knees and thank me. Besides, your wife Victoria Thorne said, you truly do live up to your name." Director Vance slammed his hand on the table, forcing me back, his eyes full of contempt. During our argument, my wife Victoria Thorne walked in and reprimanded me. "Why are you arguing with Director Vance? Do you even have the right?" I stared at Victoria Thorne, who was supposed to be filming out of town in the States, my gaze fixed on her nearly 8-month pregnant belly. Noticing my stare, she dropped the pretense, "The baby isn't yours, it's Director Vance's. No need to look. Whose fault is it that he's just a small-time actor? If you were a big-shot director, I wouldn't have to sleep with a director and have his baby for a role." I was stunned. Is that so? So if I really became a big-shot director and slept with other actresses, you wouldn't mind, right? Before I could finish, Victoria Thorne interrupted me, frowning, "Don't make a scene here. Director Vance changed your name just to create buzz for the show. Don't be so unreasonable." She just stood there, watching her own husband being arbitrarily renamed and insulted, yet still accusing me of being unreasonable. Victoria Thorne and I had been secretly married for 7 years. For her career, she had never agreed to my MOMS request about trying to start a family. Now, she had so easily slept with another man, and was even pregnant with his child, and she self-righteously accused me. Seeing my grim expression and knowing I wouldn't back down, Victoria Thorne suddenly stepped forward and slapped me across the face. A searing pain flared. "If it weren't for me, you wouldn't even have this role. How do you think Director Vance agreed to let you be the male lead?" As Victoria Thorne spoke, she glanced at Sterling Vance. Sterling Vance caught Victoria Thorne's signal and looked at me, his gaze condescending and full of contempt. Watching these two utter such shameless words, all I felt was amusement. When I first signed on for this show, I actually had better roles offered to me, but Victoria Thorne insisted this particular production was more promising, and that it was a script by a director she admired. She wanted me to take the part, begging me to fulfill her wish. Even though the paycheck wasn't as high as for my other potential projects, I agreed. At the time, I thought Victoria Thorne's wishes were more important than anything. It was clearly a role that needed a skilled actor, who was also affordable to lend their weight to the production. How did it become a role she secured by sleeping her way into it for me? Victoria Thorne, it truly beyond ridiculous. I no longer had the energy for their pointless arguments, and decided to seek legal action. Back home, I stayed up all night gathering evidence, preparing to sue Director Vance in court. Unfortunately, I was a step too late. The new show had already premiered, only 2 episodes had aired, but because of the male lead actor's ridiculous name, it was already trending. Ha ha ha, impotent. I want to see just how impotent he is. Just by his looks, you can tell he's useless. Feel bad for the female lead. I'd do a better job than this idiot. This is too funny. What kind of parents raise someone so ugly and useless? Is the entertainment industry's bar really this low now? The person upstairs is right. His parents probably hated their own child. That's why they gave him such an awful name. Hope he turns gay so he doesn't mess with women. Ugly comments flooded in, immediately topping the online trending list. The public's gossiping fervor even spilled over into my personal life. My home address was doxxed. When my mom called me, she was already so furious she could barely breathe. "Son, what terrible thing have you done for netizens to be cursing you like this? You, how can I show my face?" When I rushed to the hospital, the doctor said her anger brought on a severe heart attack, with severe cardiac complications, and she needed heart bypass surgery. Surgery for the elderly carries high risks and high costs, requiring $300,000. My life savings had long been with Victoria Thorne. Left with no choice, I still called Victoria Thorne. "Honey, Mom had a heart attack and needs money. Transfer $300,000. On the other end, there was a long silence. Sterling, slow down. The doctor said we shouldn't do this right now. You just can't control yourself." Finally, after half a minute, Victoria Thorne's sultry voice came through, but it wasn't directed at me. "Of course I can't control myself. I can't bear to see you suffer when you're with an impotent man. I have to seize the moment to satisfy you now. Sterling Vance, reveling in the moment, spoke breathlessly, his exertions evident. Victoria Thorne laughed even louder. Come on, baby, scream louder, your husband is listening, let him hear what a real man is like. What? It was then that Victoria Thorne realized my call had been answered by Sterling Vance. At that moment, my stomach churned, as I hadn't eaten all day due to my busy schedule. My nails dug into my palms. Suppressing my rage and disgust, I spoke again. Victoria, Mom had a heart attack. She needs $300,000 for surgery. Transfer the money, quickly. Victoria Thorne, having composed herself, regained her composure, and finally registered my words. After a pause, Victoria Thorne's tone was filled with suspicion and impatience. What? What surgery costs $300,000? Mom has always been healthy. Don't try to fool me. I am busy right now. Talk later if it's important. With that, she heartlessly hung up, not allowing me a single word in response. When I tried calling again, her phone was off. I borrowed from everyone I knew, but only managed to scrape together $100,000. I had no choice but to go to the production. I demanded the investor release my paycheck for this show, which was $1.5 million, more than enough to cover my MOMS surgery costs. You have the nerve to ask for money. Didn't you sue our production? Don't you know that's a breach of contract? Where would your paycheck come from? The investor slammed the lawsuit for defamation against the production down in front of me. At that time, I had intended to risk a breach of contract to win that lawsuit and defend my dignity. But now, I had no other option. I am sorry, sir, I won't sue anymore. I'll drop the lawsuit. After I called my lawyer to drop the lawsuit, the investor showed a satisfied expression, but his expression quickly shifted to deliberately making things difficult. You can have your paycheck, but a few scenes in the later episodes need to be reshot. Prepare yourself. You'll reshoot with director Vance tomorrow. The moment I opened the script, it was full of major explosion scenes. It required me to experience the sensation of being burned by scorching flames at an explosion site, all over again. Last time, I nearly suffered severe injuries. Audiences wouldn't watch these kinds of scenes too closely, and they were high cost. No director would choose to reshoot them multiple times. This was clearly Sterling Vance deliberately making things difficult for me. I questioned him. There's no need to reshoot these scenes, right? Before I could finish, Victoria Thorne walked out, arm in arm with Sterling Vance. Even though she was pregnant, she was still wearing a sexy, high-slit mermaid dress. Ethan, don't be so dramatic. IVE always thought those scenes needed to be reshot. You didn't film them well at all. The bed scenes for the male and female leads also need reshooting. Once IVE had the baby, let director Vance and me do them. We have great chemistry. That's how the audience will really feel something. Victoria Thorne beamed as she fantasized. She completely failed to notice me, standing by, staring at her hickeys, my tightly clenched fists already bleeding. For my MOMS surgery fees, I arrived at the film set as scheduled. I changed into my protective costume, and checked with the on-set staff about the safety protocols. After confirming everything was in order, I went to my designated spot. Action. At Sterling Vance's command, I began to perform. I performed it once, twice, 3 times, countless times. Sterling Vance kept yelling cut. The flames on set were ignited again and again, cars were swapped out repeatedly, and the protective costume on my body gradually lost its effectiveness. Feeling that something was seriously wrong, I looked towards the director's position. The sight before me sent chills through my already burning body. I saw Victoria Thorne half reclining on Sterling Vance, who wasn't even looking at the monitor, continuously flirting with Victoria Thorne. He would occasionally order the nearby staff, keep lighting the fires, keep burning the cars. I have money to burn on equipment. Let him keep acting. It's not that easy to get my money. Director Vance is truly generous, not only with money to invest but also so professional and meticulous. Someone like Ethan Hayes should really hone his craft more, otherwise his acting will remain terrible. Victoria Thorne sat on Sterling Vance's lap, feeding him a grape with her mouth, her tone fawning, and those commands to reshoot, cut, and one more time, were coming from a pre-recorded loop next to them. I, like a fool, kept performing the falling scene in the fire, following the machine's instructions over and over again. The burning sensation across my body instantly intensified, and a blind rage ignited within me. Just as I was about to rush out of the performance area, an accident suddenly occurred. With a bang, the car used for filming suddenly exploded. The massive impact threw me dozens of meters away. and my hand was injured by the explosion debris. The set descended into chaos, my vision was obscured by the explosion's dust, and the pain in my body spread relentlessly, especially in my arm, which was burned by the debris. Help me. Honey, help me. Seeing that the security team hadn't noticed me at all, I could only call out to Victoria Thorne, who was closest. Startled by the explosion, she was snuggling into Sterling's side, whining, and only noticed me after a long while. Why are you here? Were you slacking off just now? Is it because you didn't perform on time that the prop exploded? No. The explosion happened while I was performing. I was blown here. Quickly, take me to the hospital. I tore at my throat, trying my best to explain myself, but Victoria Thorne didn't listen to my explanation at all. Instead, she noticed that sparks singed Sterling Vance's pant leg. Oh my God, Sterling, is your leg okay? Sparks got on it. Be careful of burns, or I'd be heartbroken. Victoria Thorne was pregnant, making it difficult for her to bend down. Yet, to examine Sterling Vance's tiny injury, she actually knelt directly on the ground, and gently lifted Sterling Vance's foot to her chest. She meticulously examined Sterling Vance's calf, even licking the reddened area to alleviate Sterling Vance's slight discomfort. Watching this scene, my heart felt like it was being squeezed by a giant hand. Aching with pain, married to Victoria Thorne for 7 years, how had I never known she was capable of such a thing? Seeing that my pleas were useless, and realizing that if I remained like this, my life might be in danger, I used my last ounce of strength to crawl to the rescue station. Only after seeing me did the security team's doctor feigned concern, and said, Mr. Hayes, here. We've been looking for you for a while. Well, examine your injuries immediately. The doctors quickly saw that my injuries were the most severe on set. However, there was only one rescue vehicle left to transport us to the hospital. A few doctors lifted me onto a stretcher. Just as we were about to get into the car, wait. Take Sterling and me to the hospital first. Ive looked at his foot, and it's getting redder. I am afraid he's burned. Victoria Thorne's sharp voice came from a distance. Her face was full of worry, as if she feared the man beside her would suffer even the slightest mishap. But upon closer inspection, compared to me, who was covered in injuries, it was impossible to tell where Sterling Vance was actually hurt. The rescue paramedics, seeing that the director was getting into the vehicle, understood the implication and casually tossed me off the stretcher. My already aching wounds were further aggravated by the impact. What about me? I pleaded, grabbing a nearby paramedic's hand, trying to advocate for myself. Victoria Thorne, who was then helping Sterling Vance to the rescue vehicle, unable to use her hands, kicked away the paramedic's hand that I was holding. You wait for the next car. Sterling has never endured hardship since he was little. His stamina isn't as good as yours. I am afraid something might happen to him. The rescue vehicle's door closed, and the group sped away, leaving me, covered in injuries, to watch helplessly as they drove away. At this point, all I could do was wait, but almost an hour passed with no news. I asked other colleagues to call Victoria Thorne for me. On the other end, she heard my plea for help and impatiently said, Why are you being so dramatic? You're a grown man. A rescue vehicle costs money. Can't you save the production some expenses? Figure out your own way here. Before I could interject, she had already hung up. In utter desperation, I gritted my teeth, and with my last breath, crawled out of the film set to seek help from passersby. Fortunately, a kind passerby called an ambulance to take me to the hospital, and by then, my entire body was numb with pain. Once I realized I was safe, my taut nerves began to relax, and I passed out. At the hospital, I woke from my stupor after an unknown period. You're awake. You came too late. Your hand was severely burned and necrotic. In an emergency to save your life, we performed an amputation. Amputated. I am an actor. Without my hand, what will happen to my acting career? Sir, please remember to pay the surgery fee at the front desk later. The doctor's words pulled me back from my dazed state. Just then, my phone rang. It was from my MOMS hospital. Mr. Hayes, we haven't been able to reach you. Your mother's condition is critical. Please come to the hospital quickly. Without another thought, covered in bandages, I rushed to the hospital where my mom was. As soon as I reached her hospital room, I saw a crowd gathered around my MOMS bed. Finally here, Mr. Hayes, your mother. The surgery was delayed too long. There's no longer a need for her to undergo surgery. I told you it was supposed to happen today. But, yes, I had woken up early today, planning to reshoot a few scenes so I could get my paycheck in the morning, and then smoothly arrange for my MOMS surgery, but I never expected to be tormented and played by Sterling Vance and Victoria Thorne for so long, and then for an accident to happen. I crawled to my MOMS bedside, listening as she managed to utter a few words with difficulty. Victoria, did you come? Hearing my mom call Victoria Thorne's name, I frantically called Victoria Thorne. The call was answered smoothly, but by a deep male voice. Ethan Hayes, why are you, a good-for-nothing, always looking for your wife? Your wife just came out of the delivery room. She just gave birth to my child. It's a boy, and he looks just like me. What? Do you want to come see him? You. The speakerphone was loud, and everyone present heard those words, especially my mom. My mom lay on the bed, her hand trembling with anger. She tried to say something, but before she could utter a sound, she passed away. My mom died. Victoria Thorne killed her. On her deathbed, my mom also learned that Victoria Thorne had cheated, and even had a child with another man. How heartbroken she must have been. She couldn't rest in peace. My MOMS greatest wish in life was to hold her grandchildren, and enjoy the joys of family, but I always considered the nature of Victoria Thorne's profession, explaining for her, and advising my mom not to pressure Victoria Thorne anymore. Though my mom had regrets, she never truly blamed Victoria Thorne. Every time Victoria Thorne went on a business trip, my mom would get up early to pack her bags for her, and when she returned home from work, my mom also stayed up late to make her late-night meals. Looking at my MOMS unclosed eyes, a myriad of emotions surged within me: regret, despair, self-reproach, rage. Victoria Thorne, it's time for us to settle this. It wasn't until I was handling my MOMS funeral arrangements that Victoria Thorne finally called me back. Why have you been calling me so much lately? Are you sick? Don't you know I am busy? Busy with your mom. If you have any conscience, come see my mom one last time. Hearing Victoria Thorne's impatient tone, I couldn't hold back my indignation, and roared at her. On the other end of the phone, she was startled at first, but then agreed. Victoria Thorne, dragging her fragile body, which had just given birth, rushed to the scene. The moment she saw my MOMS coffin, Victoria Thorne was dazed, and she rubbed her eyes in disbelief. Ethan Hayes, I know you've been bothered by Sterling and me, but I've already explained to you that it was for our careers. You don't have to be so unreasonable about it. How could you use mom faking her death to scare me? Mom even texted me to check on me 2 days ago. How could she be dead? Victoria Thorne didn't believe my mom was dead, pointing at my nose, incessantly questioning. I snorted, finding it utterly ridiculous. Even now, Victoria Thorne was still lost in her own world, unable to break free. Then why don't you see for yourself if my mom is truly dead or just faking her death? On the verge of breaking down, I frantically opened my MOMS coffin, disregarding the dissuasion of those around me. As soon as the coffin was opened, my MOMS pale face appeared before Victoria. Victoria Thorne, who had initially been full of confidence and smugness, trembled and stumbled back several steps in fright. It wasn't until she confirmed my mom was truly dead that she realized the gravity of the situation. Mom. No. No. You can't be dead. Ethan Hayes clearly lied to me. You were always so good to me, you wouldn't leave me, would you? Victoria Thorne remembered all that had happened recently. My urging her for the surgery fees, my urging her to visit my mom, until the last time I urged her to see my mom one last time. All of this echoed in Victoria Thorne's mind. She never imagined that she had repeatedly sealed my mother's fate, delaying my MOMS optimal rescue time. Ethan Hayes, why are you, a good-for-nothing, always looking for your wife? Your wife just came out of the delivery room. She just gave birth to my child. It's a boy, and he looks just like me. What? Do you want to come see him? I played her the recording of my last call to Victoria Thorne. I wanted to tell her that Victoria Thorne was the one who killed my mom. Ethan, what is this? The last time you called me, Sterling Vance answered the phone, and that's when mom passed away. Even with some mental preparation, hearing that she was responsible for my MOMS death, she collapsed to the ground in shock. Victoria Thorne knelt on the ground, sobbed uncontrollably, and poured out her apologies for everything she had done to my mom. But no matter how sincere her apology, it couldn't bring my mom back to life, nor could it earn my forgiveness. Victoria Thorne, let's get a divorce. As for my MOMS matter, I will pursue justice. I slapped the divorce papers I'd prepared over 2 weeks ago onto Victoria Thorn's face. The papers swept across Victoria Thorn's tear-streaked face. Even though she was crying, her striking beauty still made her look stunning. She seemed to have never considered that I would ask for a divorce. She had grown accustomed to my enduring silence. When I saw her with Sterling Vance, even you don't understand me. All of that was for our future. We are both actors. We need Director Vance's resources. Enough. Before she could finish, I cut her off, my eyes bloodshot. Honestly, I had long been fed up with Victoria Thorn's self-righteous facade. It was clearly she who had no integrity, betraying our relationship by cheating with a man she believed could further her career, claiming it was for me. She was truly laughable. She was simply trying to rationalize her deplorable actions. Victoria Thorn, do you even believe these words yourself? I gritted my teeth, looking into Victoria Thorn's guilty eyes, and questioned her. Victoria Thorn's mouth gaped, about to speak, but no words came out. She looked at me, her gaze finally settling on my amputated left arm. Your hand. I subconsciously hid my bandaged left hand behind me, but Victoria Thorn lost it. Did that happen during the filming that day? I am sorry. I didn't know it would be this serious. It's me. It's my fault. All my fault. She stared blankly at my amputated left hand, murmuring in self-reproach. But what good was this too late apology? I didn't want to see her ridiculous display, and was about to leave. Ethan Hayes, are you completely blameless? If you were a big-shot director with countless resources, I wouldn't have had to sleep with a director for roles, or even have his baby. Victoria Thorn's tone was righteous indignation, as if everything that happened was my fault. Is that so? So you mean if I really became a director and slept with other actresses, you wouldn't mind, right? She hadn't expected me to say that, and Victoria Thorn was speechless. After a long pause, she finally said, how could you? Shouldn't a man be faithful? Ha! What a double standard, utterly ridiculous. Back home, I cleared out Victoria Thorn's belongings and threw them out the door. In the days that followed, I would immerse myself in my new career, directing. When I first got into the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, my chosen major was actually directing, but I couldn't argue with Victoria Thorn. At the time, she made a fuss about me switching majors, wanting me to be in the same program so we could be together. Won't you just stay with me? When we act together in the future, I only want you to be my male lead. She pleaded with me for a week, and I agreed. At that time, Victoria Thorn and I had only been dating for a month. We were deeply in love, inseparable. Her naive self told me she wanted me to be her only male lead. Now, after 7 years of marriage, she mocked me for not being a big-shot director, and therefore she went to other men. The karma of that young man, who believed love conquered all, has ultimately fallen upon me now. Fortunately, my passion for directing allowed me to keep up with my studies over the years. My hand was gone, but I could still transition to behind-the-scenes work. I bought a pile of materials, and with the little money I had, enrolled in an adult education program. After a few months of intensive study, I began preparing for the filming of a low-budget script. Because I was so focused, I didn't notice the calls from Victoria Thorn. A total of 134 missed calls, and countless text messages. Everything I said was out of anger. Please don't leave me, okay? I have nowhere to live now. I am staying in a hotel. Your lawyer is pressuring me to sign the divorce papers. I can't believe he's so heartless to me. We loved each other. How could you be so cruel to me? My body hasn't been well since giving birth. I am so cold. Honey, I miss you so much. I miss the hot porridge you used to make for me. Victoria Thorn was still trying to feign pity to gain my sympathy and win me back. As she poured out her heart, I felt nothing. After coldly deleting and blocking her, I lay exhausted on the couch and fell into a deep sleep. I slept for who knows how long. In a daze, I was woken by a breath reeking of alcohol. When I opened my eyes, Victoria Thorn's sensual red lips were pressed against my neck, freely caressing it. Honey, I've missed you so much. Do you know how sad I've been not being able to find you? I know, accusingly, saying I killed Mom. These past few days, I've gone to Mom's grave every night to confess. Last night, Mom visited me in a dream. She forgave me and said she hopes we can be well together. Please forgive me too, honey. Victoria Thorn was drunk, and with her eyes glazed over. She kept saying this while seductively touching me. Once I realized what was happening, I suppressed my nausea and flung her body away. This body, defiled countless times by Sterling Vance, if she wasn't disgusted, I certainly was. I glanced at the door, which she had opened naturally with a key, and realized I'd been too tired to lock it properly today. While calling a locksmith, I scrubbed clean the areas Victoria Thorne had touched. Do you really despise me that much? Yes. Disgusted. She was simply asking the obvious. Even seeing my resolute attitude, Victoria Thorne still refused to give up. She even tried to step forward and embrace me. I used force to drag her out the door, and slammed it shut. Ethan Hayes, do you have no regard for our past feelings? Does seeing me like this make you feel good? Victoria Thorne broke down, her words no longer slurred with drunkenness as she hysterically began to recount her experiences during this period. She said Sterling Vance was a liar who had dumped her. He had merely valued her beauty, and used her as a baby-making machine. After learning it was a boy, Sterling Vance took the child back home, and deleted all of Victoria Thorne's contact information. Victoria Thorne pitifully recovered from childbirth alone, when she later recovered, and demanded Sterling Vance give her the lead actress role. Sterling Vance cursed her in the most vulgar terms. He said something about a talentless trophy wife deluding herself into thinking she could use men to climb the ladder. How utterly foolish. Victoria Thorne, enraged upon realizing she had been deceived, went to Sterling Vance's new production to cause a scene, only to find another woman lying on Sterling Vance. She became the biggest laughingstock. Overnight, public opinion about Victoria Thorne using men and having their children to climb the ladder went wild. If Sterling Vance didn't have a new show to promote, this negative publicity would still be festering now. As Victoria Thorne spoke, she broke into uncontrollable sobs, trying to win my sympathy once more. But what did any of that have to do with me? Wasn't this her own doing? Even then, Victoria Thorne still refused to agree to a divorce. To get my money back, I officially sued Victoria Thorne. Given the overwhelming evidence I provided, the judge ruled that Victoria Thorne would divorce me and leave with nothing. Hearing this news, Victoria Thorne was dazed, like a wilted eggplant, and mechanically signed the divorce papers, watching me leave callously, holding the divorce papers with satisfaction. Victoria Thorne's eyes were filled with resentment and reluctance. Do you really hate me that much? I still love you, Ethan. I'll atone for my mistakes, as long as you're willing to forgive me, and come back. I'll always be here. No need. Only a fool would go back. After getting my money back, I invested it in my new show. This show was adapted from a carefully selected female-oriented novel, perfectly suited for today's market. It should be a huge moneymaker, and also help me gain fans and resources. Before filming, I auditioned many, and selected a large number of talented actors. I had been hesitant to finalize the last two key roles, the lead actress and supporting actress, as they were the heart and soul of the entire production. Countless actresses came to audition, but only a few were truly suitable. One day, a familiar face appeared among the auditioning actors. It was Victoria Thorne. Director, I am here to audition for the lead actress role. I admit that the moment I saw Victoria Thorne, my contempt outweighed my appreciation for her beauty, but my professionalism told me I should respect every actor. Entering the regular audition segment, she began to perform with her scene partner, full of emotion, from the judging panel. I was mesmerized. Victoria Thorne had changed. She had actually honed her acting skills during this period. I had to admit, her performance was up to standard. After a round of auditions, I hesitated between two candidates. One was Victoria Thorne, the other was Grace Chern. Grace Chern was known in the industry as America's sweetheart, and her acting skills were top-notch. Unfortunately, she had a bad previous agency, and never had good resources. She had been in the entertainment industry for nearly 5 years, yet still hadn't landed a breakthrough role. This opportunity was a once-in-a-lifetime one for her. Seeing her eager eyes, my partner and I hesitated. Director, I really want this role. If you need me to, I can even audition with you privately again. At her words, I looked up, stunned. Anyone could see what she meant by that. What surprised me was that these words came from Grace Chern. She was a well-known, strong-willed, and principled actress in the industry. Otherwise, she wouldn't have gone this long without a breakthrough role, which clearly showed she had stuck to her principles countless times before. But this time, facing Victoria Thorne, a formidable scene partner, and this hard-won opportunity for the lead actress role, was she also wavering? I looked at Grace Chern's eager gaze and didn't respond. Victoria Thorne, standing nearby, was also stunned by this, her eyes wide. She looked from Grace Chern to me, finally sporting a confident expression. Relax. Who do you think Director Hayes is? Don't try that kind of trick on Ethan. He's come to my room at 7 tonight for the audition. I interrupted. Victoria Thorne stood up and said to Grace Churn. Grace Churn was as delighted as if she'd won the lottery, and she looked at me eagerly, nodding in agreement. Victoria Thorne, however, couldn't sit still. She anxiously stepped forward and grabbed me as I was about to leave, frowning, and accusingly said, "How can you do this? I told you to wait for me. Besides, even if we're divorced, just because an actress is eager to sleep with you, you're going to agree. You have no principles." I found it amusing, and looked at Victoria Thorne with a surprised expression. "Oh really? Didn't I learn that from you? Didn't you say it's perfectly normal for actresses to sleep with directors for roles? Why are you so anxious when it happens to me? By the way, do you want to come? Don't you also want to play the lead actress? Aren't you the best at snatching roles like this?" Perhaps unable to accept such an insult from the man she claimed to love, Victoria Thorne's teeth chattered with rage, and her face turned pale with rage. "Today, I really did want to indulge myself. Grace Churn had always been a goddess in my eyes. If I didn't know her character, I wouldn't have agreed. Tonight, I'd consider it an adult way of expressing interest between us." At 7 in the evening, my room door was knocked precisely on time. Opening the door, I found not only Grace Churn, but also Victoria Thorne. Grace Churn, as expected, was quite inexperienced, dressed in casual clothes. Victoria Thorne, on the other hand, wore fishnet stockings and high heels, paired with a sheer black low-cut nightgown. Her intentions were clear. I glanced at both of them. Before I could speak, Victoria Thorne cut in, "Choose me or her. Make your decision tonight." I truly hadn't expected Victoria Thorne to take my provocative words from earlier that day seriously. The more she acted like this, the further she fell in my estimation. Without hesitation, I invited Grace Churn inside. Victoria Thorne got the cold shoulder. I also removed her from the production's candidate list. While I was confident I could use an actress with scandals, because I could ensure my show wouldn't be too affected by having an excellent script, I simply didn't want to work with someone like Victoria Thorne, who had no integrity. Consider it a personal vendetta. That night, Grace Churn and I spent a night of passion. At first, Grace Churn even genuinely tried to show her sincerity by going over the script again, and demonstrating that she had memorized her lines perfectly. Looking at this naive girl, a rare sincere actress in the industry, I found her exceptionally endearing. Seizing the flirty atmosphere, I confessed my feelings, and she said, "I know this kind of thing is common in the industry, but I've always stuck to my principles, until I met you. Is so handsome and talented. I want to have a normal relationship with you." I nodded, secretly delighted. The day I announced the lead actress, Victoria Thorne lost it. She ran to my film set, made a scene, confident I would give her the role out of consideration for our past. She completely lost it when she saw Grace Churn snuggling by my side. First, like a shrew, she tried to lay hands on Grace Churn, but I stopped her. Then she started telling everyone in the production about our past love story. Grace Churn couldn't take it anymore, so she filmed Victoria Thorne's erratic behavior and posted it online. Victoria Thorne's scandals were brought back to people's minds, the most deeply unearthed of these being the one involving Victoria Thorne and Sterling Vance. But Sterling Vance's new show had just started airing when this wave of scandals ruined it. There was no way Sterling Vance would let Victoria Thorne off the hook like that. He used the connections from his home, and pulled out all the stops to have Victoria Thorne imprisoned. She had long heard that Sterling Vance's home had ties to both legitimate and illicit circles, and now Victoria Thorne truly saw it for herself. "You bitch, did you cause my new show's viewership to drop? Didn't I tell you not to cause any more trouble? Do you take me for a pushover?" Sterling Vance held a 2-inch thick leather whip, whipping her entire body. Looking at her, Victoria Thorne didn't have a single unbruised spot on her body. Just as Victoria Thorne was pleading pitifully with Sterling Vance for help, he pointed to her right. She saw several snakes, as thick as a fist, salivating as they stared at Victoria Thorne's bloody skin. "My children, today you can let them feast." With Sterling Vance's command, the snake cage opened, and they swarmed Victoria Thorne. "Isn't this all you have? Your looks? What else do you have? I told you not to cause trouble, but you never listen." Sterling Vance's father was running illicit gambling operations out of Atlantic City. As the youngest son, Sterling, who had dreamed of being a director since childhood, had finally gained his father's support to film a few shows, and now was his time to prove himself. The show flopped, which was undoubtedly devastating for him. having grown up watching his father handle problems with crude simplicity, and with his unusual pet hobby, he punished the woman who caused his show to flop like a madman. Victoria Thorne was terrified by the snakes and desperately cried for help. Luckily, they were all pet snakes, not very venomous, but it was enough to leave Victoria Thorne's skin torn and bruised, fearing he might cause a death. Sterling Vance vented his rage, and then casually abandoned Victoria Thorne on the roadside. When Victoria Thorne called me, I was enjoying a private moment with Grace Churn. "Ethan, Sterling Vance beat me, please save me, please." Lazily, I took the call, put it on speakerphone, and nonchalantly said, "What? You were beaten? How could you possibly be beaten when you're perfectly fine? Don't try to pull that act on me. I am busy. Don't bother me." I returned to her the very words she had given me when my mom called her when she was sick. On the other end of the line, she was weakly struggling. "I am not lying to you. Let's do it again, Ethan." Grace Churn snuggled onto my chest, playfully, soft and adorable, in the mood. I again pinned Grace Churn down. Victoria Thorne's heart turned to ashes, but she still tried to call out to me, but on the phone. There were only Grace Churn's and my moans and whispers when making love. We lost ourselves in ecstasy. The first show I directed had entered its premiere. As expected, the show was a huge hit, and I became the industry's newest rising star director. After my fame skyrocketed, investments and advertisements poured in. I was one step closer to becoming the great director Victoria Thorne had spoken of. When you asked me to post about Victoria Thorne online back then, was it for me? She has completely disappeared from the industry now, and won't post anything unfavorable about me. Grace Churn lay in my arms, reminiscing about the past. Millimeters. I looked into the distance, said nothing more. That was in the direction of my mom's grave. A few days later, I suddenly received a call from the hospital. "Mr. Hayes, Ms. Thorne has some last wishes to tell you. Would you be able to come to the hospital?" I paused, then agreed. Upon arriving at the hospital, Victoria Thorne was in very poor condition, just like my mom had been, and could only manage to speak with difficulty. "I don't blame you for not coming to save me that day. It's all right. I am returning this life to your mom." Her tone carried resentment, without a trace of remorse. But wasn't this her own karma? The night Victoria Thorne died was exactly my mom's death anniversary. One who betrays true affection deserves to die 1,000 deaths.